There's a line most people never cross, not because it's hidden, but because it doesn't look appealing from the outside. On one side of that line is spiritual curiosity. On the other side is initiation. At a glance, they look almost identical. They use the same language, they reference the same ideas, they even talk about the same practices. But internally, they're completely different processes. Curiosity is about sampling. You observe, you collect ideas, you take what feels useful, and move on. Initiation is different. Initiation isn't about what interests you. It's about what restructures you. Curiosity consumes. Initiation changes the shape of your life. And most people watching this are on the curiosity side of that line. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't know the difference, everything that follows will feel confusing, frustrating, or unnecessary. This isn't another video meant to give you something to think about. It's meant to clarify which side of that line you're actually standing on. Curiosity is how most people interact with spirituality. You read a book here, you watch a video there, maybe you try meditation for a few days, or maybe even a week if it feels interesting. So curiosity operates in sampling mode. You move from idea to idea, practice to practice, taking small tastes without ever staying long enough for anything to reshape you. And this isn't a flaw, it's a pattern. Curiosity asks questions like, does this resonate? Do I like this? Does this fit how I already see the world? If the answer is yes, you keep it. If the answer is no, or it becomes uncomfortable, then you move on. Psychologically, that makes sense. New ideas feel rewarding. Novel perspectives give a small hit of excitement, clarity, or insight. Neurologically, curiosity is reinforced by novelty. The brain rewards new information, not long-term discipline. So each concept feels productive, even if nothing actually changes. You feel engaged, you feel informed, you feel like you're progressing. But curiosity doesn't require consistency. It doesn't demand repetition, and it never asks you to stay when the initial interest fades. That's why curiosity feels active, while quietly keeping everything the same. The cost of curiosity isn't that it's wrong. The cost is that it never asks anything from you. You can spend years consuming spiritual material and never once be required to change your sleep, your habits, or your discipline. Because curiosity is voluntary at every step. You decide when to begin, you decide when to stop, and you decide what to ignore. Over time, this creates fragmentation. You pick up pieces from many systems, but they don't integrate into anything stable. Nothing stays long enough to reorganize how you think, how you react, or how your body responds under pressure. What forms instead is a kind of inflated conceptual identity. You know the language, you recognize the symbols, you can explain the ideas, but none of that means your nervous system has been retrained. And this is where people start to feel stuck. They understand more than they used to, yet they react the same way under stress. They fall into the same patterns, they return to the same habits. Research on habit formation is very clear about this. Knowledge doesn't produce change. Repeated action does. Identity only shifts when behavior is practiced consistently over time, especially when there's no immediate reward. Curiosity avoids that requirement. It gives insight without obligation, meaning without discipline, and eventually that gap becomes impossible to ignore. Initiation begins when curiosity ends. Not when you find the right belief, not when something finally clicks. Initiation begins when you stop asking what you like and start submitting to a process. Initiation is not about what you believe. It's about what you practice consistently, whether you feel inspired or not. And initiation doesn't ask if the method resonates. It doesn't adjust itself to your preferences. It doesn't care if today feels meaningful. It asks one question only: will you do this anyway? That is the core difference. Curiosity keeps authority in your hands. Initiation removes that option. You don't sample an initiation, you enter it and allow it to work on you over time. That requires submission, not to a person, not to a belief system, but to a structure. And this is why every serious initiatory system, whether it's martial arts lineage or mystery schools, is built around method, repetition, and time. Not insight, not interpretation, and not personal meaning. The method stays the same. You're the variable. Crossing that line costs you options. You don't get to endlessly explore anymore. You don't get to keep switching systems every time something new new sounds more interesting. Initiation demands consistency, not when it feels meaningful, not when motivation is high. It requires consistency every single day. And there's no external validation for that. No one congratulates you, no one confirms that you're doing it right. You also lose novelty. Initiation isn't exciting most of the time. It doesn't produce constant insight. There are long stretches where nothing seems to happen at all. Neurologically, this matters. The brain prefers dopamine-driven exploration. New ideas, new perspectives, new stimulation. Discipline works differently. Long-term neural change only happens through repetition without immediate reward, through delayed gratification. Initiation asks you to keep going after the dopamine wears off. That's the real cost. It costs comfort, it costs flexibility, and it costs the fantasy that insight alone is enough. You don't get to feel initiated. You earn it quietly by doing the same thing over and over without applause. Once initiation begins, the question changes. It's no longer what do I believe? Belief belongs to curiosity. Belief is flexible, and belief can change without costing you anything. Initiation doesn't operate at the level of belief at all. It operates at the level of action. What matters isn't what you agree with or how well you understand the ideas. What matters is what you're willing to do daily, without reward, without feedback, without reassurance that it's working, without the comfort of feeling inspired. This is where ideology falls away. No explanations, no interpretations, no personal philosophy to hide behind, just practice. Repeated, unimpressive practice. That's the shift. From thinking about change to submitting to a process that produces it. And if you're here for curiosity, that's fine. There's no pressure to move past that, no obligation to continue, no expectation to prove anything. But understand what you're choosing. Curiosity stays comfortable, and it lets you walk away unchanged. Next Friday, we begin the initiatory process with our first episode, so stay tuned for that. And if you continue into the next video, do it with clarity, not expecting insight, not looking for something to agree with. Do it knowing this isn't about learning something new. It is about being restructured.